Murder suspect, 45-year-old Eric Reinbold of Oakley, Minnesota, is now facing charges of assaulting corrections officers and trying to escape the Pennington County Jail in Thief River Falls. He was captured last August after allegedly murdering his wife and hiding out from law enforcement for nearly a month. The trial in that case is scheduled for later this year. He remains at the Pennington County Jail in Thief River Falls. But now Reinbold has been charged with 2 felony counts of assaulting corrections officers and 1 felony count of attempted escape from the jail in Thief River Saturday night. Now, here are details on all this, reading from the criminal complaint without using the names of the correctional officers. Quote, officer asked the inmates of Charlie Pod if any of them needed over-the-counter medications. Reinbold stated that he did. The officer was standing on the opposite side of the medication cart to where inmates were exiting Charlie Pod. Reinbold exited Charlie Pod, and the officer observed Reinbold to be holding an object in his hand, which she believed to be a white-colored pencil. Reinbold immediately came around the medication cart and grabbed a hold of the officer. The officer felt threatened at this time. Reinbold grabbed the officer's shirt as she was backing up. As the struggle with Reinbold continued, an officer felt a push from Reinbold, causing her to lose her footing and fall to the floor. She struck the back of her head on the concrete floor with enough force that she saw stars in her eyes. Her glasses flew 3 to 4 feet across the floor. Reinbold then grabbed her by the arms and began dragging her across the floor. Reinbold let go of the officer upon another officer approaching Reinbold. The incident between the officer and Reinbold began in front of Charlie Pod and ended up proceeding past the control desk in the jail. Reinbold continued to engage both corrections officers. Reinbold lunged at one of the officers with a white-colored pencil in his right hand. Reinbold grabbed the officer by the shirt and hair and used the metal stair beam to pull the officer closer to him. Reinbold continued to pull the officer with his left hand around the metal stair beam while attempting to strike the officer in her left side with his right hand that continued to hold the white-colored pencil. The other officer was successful in breaking Reinbold's hold on the officer's shirt and hair. This caused that officer to fall backwards on her left hip and left leg. Reinbold then turned his attention to the other officer. Reinbold told the officer to open the door. Reinbold forcefully shoved the officer into a concrete wall where the officer fell to the concrete floor. Reinbold told him to open the interior door in the jail facility. The officer stated to Reinbold that he was not able to open the interior door to the jail facility because he couldn't feel his legs. After the officer refused to comply with Reinbold's demand, Reinbold ripped the officer's star-shaped corrections badge from his chest and attempted to use it on the badge reader to open the interior door in the jail facility. Reinbold was unsuccessful in opening the interior door in the jail facility because the corrections badge will not open the interior door. Upon unsuccessful attempts to open the interior door in the jail facility, Reinbold stood over the officer and holding the white-colored pencil to the officer's throat, demanding that he open the interior door to the jail facility. The officer was scared that Reinbold was going to hurt or even kill himself or the other officer. The officer proceeded back to the control desk and let another officer out of the Alpha Pod. Prior to the door opening in Alpha Pod, the officer heard the other corrections officer yelling, "He's attacking me," and unholstered her department-issued taser so that she would be ready in the Alpha Pod when the door was opened. After exiting the Alpha Pod, the officer proceeded behind the control desk and unholstered her apartment-issued taser. The officer approached Reinbold, who had the other officer pinned to the floor and against a concrete wall, holding a white-colored pencil to his neck. The officer attempted to verbally de-escalate the situation to no avail. The officer instructed Reinbold to get off the other corrections officer. Reinbold did not comply with commands. At this point, the officer aimed her taser at Reinbold's chest and announced, "Taser, taser, taser." Officer then deployed her taser toward Reinbold's chest. Due to the amount of clothing Reinbold was wearing, the taser probes did not penetrate completely as Reinbold's body did not lock up. The taser probes managed to be slightly effective because Reinbold dropped the pencil and started to fall over. In falling to the floor, Reinbold grabbed the officer and attempted to fight with him. The officer pulled the trigger of the taser a second time. However, it was not effective on Reinbold. Then two officers physically attempted to remove Reinbold from the third officer. The officer observed Reinbold attempt to remove the taser from another officer's hand. The officer was successful in removing the spent cartridge from the taser. And then an officer observed that Reinbold had a Pennington County issue badge in his left hand with the badge pin sticking out. The officer placed all of her weight down on Reinbold to keep his hands on the ground because the officer feared that Reinbold would try to stab one of the corrections officers with the badge. Reinbold continued to resist corrections officers' efforts to control him. Officer used a taser with the cartridge removed and drive stunned Reinbold on the right side of his rib area. This caused Reinbold to release the Pennington County issued badge from his hand. An officer was successful in sliding the Pennington County issued badge away from Reinbold so that it could not be used as a weapon. Reinbold's hands were placed behind his back where he was handcuffed at approximately 9:29 p.m. Saturday. Then Thief River Falls police officers also arrived to the jail and assisted the jail staff in putting Reinbold in a holding cell. The Pennington County deputy was dispatched to the jail and arrived and learned that the one officer was going to be taken by ambulance to Sanford and Thief River for a head injury she suffered during the incident with Reinbold. And the officer and the deputy spoke with the other corrections officer and learned prior to the incident with Reinbold he was suffering from back problems. The corrections officer stated to the deputy that during the incident he felt additional pain in his back and that when Reinbold had him on the ground he could not feel his legs and try to get Reinbold off of him. That corrections officer also went to the emergency room at Sanford to be checked and was released. So the saga of Eric Reinbold continues. I'm Neil Carlson reporting for iNewZ.TV.